Good morning, friends. Once again, I welcome you back to this class of video lecture. Friends, this is MA Final English Literature, and today we are taking the fifth paper of MA Final Year English Literature. And the nomenclature of this paper is Principles of Criticism, in this paper we take up the theory of poetry, the principles of poetry. In a way, we discuss how poetry or how literature is formed, is composed, what are the principles of composing these fine arts. So, there are numerous theories and principles behind the composition of literature. The one very important work on this domain is Aristotle's Poetics, who was a very famous Greek philosopher. The Poetics is in our course. It is a very milestone work on theory of literature, on theory of poetry. First of all, it discusses the theory of imitation, then it discusses the relationship between plot and character, and differentiation between tragedy and epic, the features of ideal tragic hero, and finally it talks in detail about the theory of catharsis, that is called the purgation theory. In other words, it is also called the pleasure of poetry. In addition to this, it is chiefly concerned with the concept of tragedy, the meaning and scope of tragedy, what are the characteristic features of tragedy, how is tragedy written, which constituent parts are required for writing a tragedy. So all such things have been discussed in Aristotle's Poetics. And Firstly, today we take up a very important canon of this work, that is imitation. We take up the theory of imitation. Direct questions occur on this topic. Uh, Discuss in detail the theory of imitation as expounded by Aristotle. Friends, Aristotle's theory of imitation is the result of Plato's theory of imitation. First, when we come to discuss Aristotle's theory of imitation, then first of all, we are supposed to go through the theory of imitation as expounded by Plato. Aristotle's theory of imitation is a correction or an improvement upon Plato's theory of imitation. Poetry is indeed an imitation, or poetry is indeed an imitation of nature or reality. This is very important part to be kept in our mind, that poetry is indeed an imitation, and it imitates what? It imitates nature, or it imitates reality. So you are supposed to acquaint yourself by the meaning of the word imitation. Imitation means when we copying. Copying is imitation. When you copy something, right? When you copy something from some original source, and when you copy the original source is imitation. So poetry is indeed an imitation, or it imitates nature, or it imitates reality. But it is not an imitation in the narrow and baser sense in which Plato interpreted it. It is an imitation in a higher and nobler sense, and this higher and nobler sense of imitation forms the backbone of Aristotle's theory of imitation. Friends, students, this is the main difference between the theory of imitation given by Plato and the theory of imitation given by Aristotle. Plato takes imitation simply a narrow and simply a base act on the part of the writer, on the part of the poet, whereas Aristotle is of the view that imitation has been a bit finer and nobler and rather a sort of creative act on the part of the writer and poet while imitating the poet, the writer, the thinker adds something from his own side, and in this way it becomes a creative activity. So, this is the main difference between Aristotle's theory of imitation and Plato's theory of imitation. The most important contribution of Aristotle to literary criticism is his defense of poetry against the attacks on it by Plato. This is the most important part which is to be kept in view, that Aristotle always defended poetry, always defended literatures, since uh, by his master Plato, poetry was attacked mercilessly, and Plato was of the view that poetry, being a substance of emotions and feelings, can rouse human mind to a great extent. That's why Plato banned poetry, and historically, if we analyze, we see that in that times poetry, drama, and literatures were banned to a great extent. So, the most important contribution of Aristotle to literary criticism is his defense of poetry against the attacks on it by Plato. Both Plato and Aristotle believe in their own different ways that poetry is indeed an imitation of nature, but they sharply differ to each other on the concept of imitation. That from this proceeds the most formidable assault on poetry by Plato and the most effective defense on it by Aristotle that has ever been known. Aristotle breathes the term imitation into a new and definite meaning. His conception of imitation is higher than that of Plato, since he includes music in imitative words. Yes, this is the main contribution of Aristotle, that music is added. Imitation for Aristotle is not mere mimicry or mere act of servile copying of nature, but an act of imaginative creation. Friends, this is important. For Aristotle, imitation is not a mere mimicry, as I have stated earlier. It is not a mere mimicry or mere act of servile copying of nature, but an act of imaginative creation. While imitating, the writer, the poet, the literary figure becomes imaginative, and he adds something from his own world of imagination. This is important. The musician imitates not the superficial appearance of external nature, but he imitates imaginatively the emotions and patience of human soul. The thus Aristotle extends the scope of imitation by including the inner life of man. This is important. The inner life of man is also imitated. And when we can imitate the inner life of man, when one thinks, one perceives, one has all that sensibility, one creates his own world of imagination. So, music has been added by Aristotle. Plato, here we should also remember that Plato equates poetry with painting. This is very important, friends. Plato equates poetry with painting, while Aristotle equates it with music. This deviation of Aristotle from painting to music extends the scope of imitation. This is important. Plato is concerned chiefly with painting, and he equates poetry with painting, whereas Aristotle equates poetry with music. In this way, the scope of imitation is extended. Aristotle is of the view that imitation is the common basis of all the fine arts. Yes, this is very important. Imitation is the common basis, is the core, is the gist, is the essence of all fine arts. And what is fine art and what is art? Again, there is a term, and we are supposed to differentiate between art and fine art. Art has been simply a matter of skill, a matter of skill in which one can attain perfection by long practice. For example, a carpenter makes a chair, makes a table. Any work of art which requires perfection, which requires skill, may be called a piece of art, right? But what is fine art, and how art is differed, how art is differentiated from the fine art? Fine art has been a typical domain where imitation is not like which goes in art. Fine art refers here to music, to painting, to poetry. And in fine arts, what do we imitate? In the world of art, we imitate objects. We imitate objects which are present before our eyes. This is the world of art, right? But in fine art, this world is sometimes abstract. This world is the world of imagination. This world is the world of sensuousness. This world is the world of, perceptions. So, how do the poets imitate that world? Comes under the domain of fine art. So, Aristotle is of the view that imitation is the common basis of all the fine arts, and it is this fact of imitation which differentiates the fine arts from other category of arts, that is the useful arts. In the very first chapter of the Poetics, Aristotle says, I quote the original quotation: epic poetry and tragedy, comedy also, and dithyrambic poetry and music of the flute and of the lyre, in most of their forms, are all, in their general conception, modes of imitation. Yes, all literatures are modes of imitation, they are the examples of imitation. Even this world is an example of imitation. Even we human beings are the examples of imitation. Whatever is concrete and whatever is abstract has been an example of imitation. So, when we talk in terms of literature, Aristotle says that epic poetry, tragedy, comedy, lyrical poetry, music of the flute, music of the lyre, in most of their forms may be whatever. Maybe it could be tragedy, it could be comedy, it could be ode, it could be sonnet, it could be a song, it could be a lyre, whatever it is, or all in their general conception, modes of imitation. The poet imitates something, he imitates his own world, and firstly, this world is created in his mind with the help of imagination or with the help of some external incident or event. You know, the world which we see in poetry is not the real world. Maybe it could be called the virtual world. The real world lies in the mind of the poet. And from that real world which lies in the mind, the poet copies. So there are two worlds present at the same time. One is the world present in the mind of the writer. And when he copies from that world, when he writes down, when he paints down, for example, Wordsworth writes, "The world is too much with us, late and soon." So the first world is the world which is present before our eyes, and he there is one world more which is present in his mind, right? So he is copying from that world. So Aristotle says that all literatures are modes of imitation. They differ, but they differ from each other, and they differ in three respects. All literatures are modes of imitation. This world in itself is an example of imitation, right? So, but how do they differ from each other? Aristotle is clear when he says that they differ from one another in three respects. Firstly, in terms of medium, in terms of objects, and finally, in terms of manner or mode of imitation, being in each case distinct, and called. So again I repeat the very important part of the poetics. All literatures are examples of imitation. What are these examples of literatures? Maybe it could be epic, it could be tragedy, it could be comedy, it could be some musical deliberation, whatever it is. But these literary genres, these literary, items differ from each other. They differ in three respects: in respect of medium, in respect of object, and in respect of the manner or mode of imitation. Thus, various arts differ from each other in three ways. They differ in their medium of imitation, in their object of imitation, or in their manner of imitation. In this way, the medium of the poet and the painter are different. The one imitates through form and color, and the other through language, rhythm, and harmony. Hence, poetry is nearer to music than painting. Further, the manner of a poet may be purely narrative, as in the epic, or representation through action, as in drama. Thus, different kinds of poetry differ from each other in their manner of imitation. Even dramatic poetry is differentiated into tragedy and comedy accordingly as it imitates man as better and worse. As regards the objects of imitation, Aristotle says that the object of poetic imitation are man in action. As Aristotle states in the chapter 2nd of the Poetics, I quote, "We must represent man either as better than in real life, or as worse, or as they are. It is the same in painting." So friends, I think the space problem is there, so we have to stop the video lecture. So before I stop the lecture, I again repeat today's main points which we have discussed, that all fine arts are modes of imitation, and the literal meaning of imitation is copying, to imitate something. And Aristotle is of the view that imitation is not a mere mimicry or mere act of servile copying the original source. Rather, while imitating, The poet adds something from his own world of imagination. In this way, uh, imitation becomes a creative act. Thank you, friends.